read. The third one I would say is wrong marriage is like sentencing yourself to a lifetime of regrets and pain. Let me come again. Wrong marriage is like sentencing yourself to a lifetime of regrets and pains. The wound doesn't get healed immediately when you marry a wrong person. There are many scars that you have on your body when you marry a wrong person. Even at times when you marry a wrong person, at the point you enjoy your marriage, but at times you still see some life and challenging mistakes that one has committed because of marrying a wrong person. This is why you have to be intentional, you have to be strategic before you marry somebody. Commit your ways before the Lord and pray, prayerfully seek God's counsel through His word, and then the Holy Spirit will also guide you to choose the right person. Even when you are healed, the scars are still there that will teach you life lessons. Even to the unborn children, it will teach them life lessons that before you marry, you have to choose wisely. The truth is, if you don't learn by revelation, you will learn by experience. And those who learn by experience, most times, they always bite their fingers. They regret their decisions. Life becomes stressful and painful when you learn by negative experiences. I pray that will not be your portion in Jesus' name. The fourth point I'll be saying is marriage is a choice. Let me repeat it again. Marriage is a choice. God created man to make choices. You can either make good choices or you make bad choices. And everyone is a product of their choices. Marrying a God-fearing and responsible person is a choice. For instance, if you marry a drunkard, is a choice. If you marry a prostitute, is a choice. If you marry a fornicator, is a choice. If you marry an adulterer, is a choice. If you marry a pastor, is a choice. Your choices will determine the consequences in your marriage. God doesn't force your partner on you because God created man to make choices. Therefore, your marriage is your choice. Please stand by it, especially if you are having any challenge with your marriage. Please stand by your marriage and the Lord will strengthen you to overcome the challenges. The fifth one I'll be saying is wrong marriage is like a blind person trying to cross an highway. Wrong marriage is like a blind person trying to cross an highway. Ignorance about marriage is not an excuse. Not having adequate knowledge about marriage before going into it will expose you and make you a wanderer in destiny. It is foolishness to prepare on the day of battle. A wise person prepares before the battle begins. Foolish people only prepares for wedding, while wise people prepares adequately for marriage. Wedding is a day event, while marriage is a lifetime journey. I pray over your life, you will not marry a wrong person. You will not marry someone that will destroy your life and your destiny. You will not marry someone that will scatter your dream, that will bury your aspiration and your vision. The Lord order your steps in the name of Jesus. Thank you so much for your time. Tobi Adeshoko is my name. Till I come your way again next time for another insightful and practical teaching. Have a wonderful day.
Do you want your voice to be heard? Do you know that you matter in the scheme of things? The People's Voice, the show where ordinary citizens take center stage as we discuss the biggest stories that affect you and I. With you in mind, we facilitate lively discussions, debates, and interviews on the topics that matter most to you and I, from social justice to economic empowerment, education to healthcare, governance, and more. Tackling tough topics and amplifying your voice. Join the conversation and make your voice count. The People's Voice. Make your voice count.
Are you ready for the extraordinary? Something big is happening on your screen. Introducing Vop Tv. Now streaming on SLTV channel 264. From breaking news to captivating conversations, news analysis, giving you all sides to the story. We bring in-depth discussions on the issues that matter, from politics to sports, entertainment, and lifestyle. Vop TV on SLTV channel 264. Join us as we redefine what television means to you. Voice of the People Television, Vop TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Hey guys, what's up? How you all doing? They call me Novisha Nelson One, your number one celebrity host, and you are watching Voice of the People Television, VOP. Stay tuned.
Uyo Sarate is my name. I am a friend of the microphone, Voice of the People TV. That name is unique, and the brand is very sweet. I like the packaging, picture qualities, camera qualities, and then of course, the quality of human beings that I see sometimes on your channel. I talk and get paid, and I look forward to being in your studios.
Oh yes, you are on to Voice of the People TV, live here in Benin City, the cradle of black civilization. What are you waiting for? Tune in, bro.
VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice. VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
The 2025 Future Makers Women in Tech graduation and award ceremony emphasized not just training, but community and collaboration. Graduating founders shared how detailed facilitation, dedicated mentorship, and access to partners helped shape their personal and business growth.
What we're celebrating today is the graduation of the 6th cohort of Women in Tech Enabled Business Incubator, sponsored by Standard Chartered Bank. This cohort, we have women that are running businesses, providing solutions in health, providing solutions in speech therapy, in agribiz. We also have women that are, using tech to solve financial inclusion challenges. I also had mentoring and coaching sessions. And what we're doing today is celebrating the top 5. And these top 5 have been awarded $10,000 for their businesses. The first thing that they get coming on this program is a networking and finding that they're not alone. The second thing is that their confidence is built, and then they now realize that they have agency and they can use their voice for good. And lastly, what happens is that when they're empowered, what we see is that these women, having been empowered, they go ahead to empower others and hold the hand. So as they're rising with other women.
During the fireside chats, speakers highlighted the need for stronger female networks, urging women in tech to seek clarity of purpose, be visible, share their stories, and collaborate intentionally. They summarized this mindset in the acronym CROSS: contribute to the ecosystem, rise with others, remain open-minded, embrace storytelling, and build strong bridges. The ceremony concluded with the announcement of the top 5 outstanding participants recognized for their innovation and resilience.
I would say the women are getting their voices heard. Over the years, over the last 8 to 10 years, we've seen a growing number of female techpreneurs, as we like to call them, who are making not just their mark, but they're a name for themselves in the industry. And we're seeing that it's not just tech, but they're focusing on different aspects of tech. There's agri-tech, there's health tech. And we're so excited about this, which is why as a bank, it made sense to us to support this, but not just support it for the sake of it, but sustainably so. Since 2019, we've successfully supported well over 55 women directly, but thousands through the sessions we've had in partnership with the Enterprise Development Center.
Personally, I believe this is one very detailed accelerator program I've been on. They're focused on you as an individual, they're focused on your business. It's been very enlightening from the first day to the last session.
It's been an inspiring moment here as the 2025 Women in Tech Graduation and Awards Ceremony, a space where ideas, innovation, and impact continues to unfold. As these women take a step forward to make a solution today and tomorrow, we are rest assured that the future ecosystem of Nigeria in tech is going to make a big difference and certainly become brighter. I'm Praise Peters, reporting.
VOP TV. Now, you have more than a voice.
Hello and welcome to the news hour right here on Voice of the People Television. I am Chioma Innocent. Before we begin, kindly visit our website. It's www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Here are the headlines. Vice President Shettima attends Ivory Coast's inauguration. Federal government condemns Benin coup attempt. U.S. lawmakers meet Ribadu to deepen strategic partnership. President Tinubu orders nationwide suspension of military retirements. Security teams foil abduction in cross-border raid. Imo police seal hotel, mortuary linked to suspected kidnappers. On the foreign scene, Guatemala town shocked by Christmas shooting. In business, farmers struggle despite food surplus. In sports, Brighton's Rota saves point with last-minute equalizer against West Ham. And in the world of entertainment, Messi defends herself amid online backlash. Now the news in detail. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has left Abuja for Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, to stand in for President Bola Tinubu at the inauguration of Alassane Ouattara, who begins his fourth term as president. He joins other African leaders to witness the swearing-in ceremony on Monday, December 8 at the presidential palace. Shettima is not alone on this trip. He's accompanied by ECOWAS Commission President Omar Toure, Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs Chairman Abubakar Bello, and House of Representatives member Usman Zana, highlighting the importance of Nigeria's presence at the event. Nigeria and Côte d'Ivoire share strong ties through ECOWAS and the African Union, collaborating on security, trade and development, informal trade, and significant Nigerian community in Côte d'Ivoire also reinforce the two countries' deep economic and social connections. The Vice President is expected back in Abuja after the inauguration. Now, this visit underscores Nigeria's commitment to regional cooperation and its role in supporting democratic processes across West Africa. Meanwhile, Nigeria is not taking the situation in Benin Republic lightly, and it made that clear today. Officials say the attempted takeover is not just troubling, but a direct hit at democracy next door. According to the statement, a group of soldiers claimed on state TV that they had removed President Patrice Talon and dissolved national institutions. But Nigeria is applauding the swift response by Beninese security forces who pushed back against the plot. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it's standing firmly with the people and the government of Benin. They're urging regional bodies like the African Union and ECOWAS to condemn the act and reinforce commitment to democratic order. And there's more. The federal government wants calm restored as quickly as possible. They say all parties in Benin Republic should stick to peaceful constitutional channels as the situation stabilizes. Meanwhile, Nigeria's National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu welcomed a delegation from the United States Congress in Abuja, and the mood was very much about cooperation. He said the visit builds on earlier meetings in Washington where both sides discussed shared threats and security priorities. Ribadu explained that counter-terrorism, regional stability, and strengthening the partnership topped the agenda. He also pointed out that the presence of the U.S. ambassador underlined how seriously both countries take this relationship. The talks are happening at a sensitive moment, especially after President Donald Trump redesignated Nigeria as a country of particular concern. And despite Nigeria rejecting those allegations, the government continues pushing for diplomatic and security backing from key partners. Recent engagements, including Pentagon meetings and the creation of a joint working group, show Abuja is trying to build a more coordinated response to its security challenges. And from Ribadu's tone today, he believes trust and collaboration between both nations will only get stronger. Still on the news, right here on Voice of the People television, France is stepping forward again, and President Emmanuel Macron is making that very clear. He says he spoke with President Tinubu and assured him that France stands firmly with Nigeria during the security crisis. According to President Macron, the focus is mainly on the rising terrorist threat in the northern part of the country. And from his message, it is obvious France is ready to deepen cooperation and provide more hands-on support. The French president also called on other international partners not to sit on the sidelines. He said addressing the worsening insecurity will require collective effort, not isolated responses. This renewed commitment comes just as Nigeria prepares for new high-level security talks with the United States. And for many Nigerians, Macron's message feels like a timely signal that the world is paying attention. Now, it would interest you to know that the Nigerian army has put all retirements on hold, and it's all tied to the security emergency declared by President Bola Tinubu. With the rising wave of mass abductions, the military says it needs every experienced hand it can keep. According to an internal memo, officers who have hit age limits or failed promotions are among those affected. But the army says they can still apply to stay on if they are willing to serve without future promotions. Some retired generals are backing the move, saying it makes sense to retain trained officers instead of letting them go during a crisis. They believe the experience these officers carry is too valuable to waste right now. Others, however, warn that proper welfare and incentives must accompany the extension. They argue that without motivation, many officers may choose to retire rather than to serve under tougher conditions. Meanwhile, security operatives have pulled off a major rescue in Kaduna after 7 kidnapped victims were tracked through forest and rocky terrain. It all started with a distress call from Ushafa in Abuja, where armed men had snatched several residents. A joint team of police, soldiers and DSS operatives immediately swung into action the next day. They followed credible intelligence through Mpape and into communities linking Kaduna. When the kidnappers spotted the advancing team, they opened fire, but the operatives held their ground. That first exchange forced the gang to abandon one victim as they ran deeper into the forest. The chase did not stop there. It lasted more than 7 hours across rough, mountainous territory. By the time the operatives stormed the main hideout in Kweri Forest, they rescued 6 more victims, bringing the total to 7. The Delta State Police Command have arrested 2 suspects over the murder of retired Justice Ifeoma Okogu. Acting on credible intelligence, detectives recovered the late Justice's mobile phone from one of the suspects. The prime suspect, 25-year-old security guard Godwin Ngumi, confessed to inviting a friend, Naji Obalum, and a third accomplice to her residence. The trio allegedly carried out the killing together, although one suspect remains at large. Justice Okogu's body was discovered on November 24 in her Asaba home with her hands, legs and mouth tied. The DPO of A Division led officers to the scene and ensured the body was taken to the mortuary for autopsy. Police say investigations are ongoing and the search for the third suspect continues. Authorities have urged anyone with credible information to come forward and to aid in bringing all perpetrators to justice. Meanwhile, in a very recent development, Imo State authorities have sealed a hotel and private mortuary in Umuhu Autonomous Community over suspicions of illegal organ harvesting. Decomposed and mutilated corpses were discovered in unhygienic conditions, raising alarms about criminal activities in the area. The operation followed credible intelligence linking the premises to a suspect, Stanley Merko Okbarugo, who remains at large. Police, alongside state health officials and local vigilante groups, conducted thorough inspections of the properties. Forensic experts documented and recovered key evidence during the raid. The state's government directed that both the hotel and mortuary be sealed while investigations continue. Authorities have declared Okbarugo wanted and urged anyone with information to contact the police immediately. Maximum security has been deployed along the Owerri-Aba Expressway to ensure travelers' safety during the holiday period. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has rolled out its full guidelines for the 2026 UTME registration, and students are already paying close attention. JAMB says the goal is to help candidates avoid the usual mistakes that cause delays every year. According to the board, the first step is simple. Get your details, especially NIN, email and personal data, completely accurate before generating a profile code. Once the code is generated, JAMB reminded candidates that it cannot be changed. JAMB also emphasized that e-pins must be bought only from authorized channels to avoid fraud. And before submitting your form at a CBT center, you are expected to cross-check every detail carefully. The board did not shy away from listing common issues like wrong NIN format, already registered phone numbers, or NIN verification delays. With the registration window set for January 31 to March 8, JAMB says doing early corrections and following the rules will make the process smooth for everyone. Now joining us virtually for analysis on the news hour is Okpeyemi Ogunlami, the Take It Back Movement Coordinator in Koshofe. You're welcome, Mr. Ogunlami, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Mr. Ogunlami? Welcome to the news hour.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening to you. Thanks for having me.
Good evening to you, and welcome. One of the biggest stories across West Africa today was the attempted coup that many would say was thankfully foiled in Benin Republic, which is Nigeria's neighbor. I mean, from our studios right now, it's less than a day's journey to Benin Republic through the Seme border going into the capital Porto Novo and of course its commercial hub Cotonou. Many Nigerians have families there and they were very worried when the news of the coup broke up. Now, this is a trend we have seen in West Africa recently, with many nations, with the militaries of many nations opting to take over power from the civilian government because they believe that the civilian government are not doing enough. While we're talking about this, Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima is jetting off to Ivory Coast to attend the inauguration of the 4th term of the Ivory Coast president. This is a trend we've seen across Africa, whereby it seems that some leaders will rather, for want of a better word, decay in office than move out of the way and let democracy continue the way it should. Let's talk about this trend of coups and why it seems that it is the in thing for many African nations right now. Earlier, a few months ago, we heard of an attempted coup in Nigeria, even though authorities downplayed that. What's your take on everything that's going on right now?
There is one thing significant with African leaders. It is the ability to retain power and the ability to wanting to remain in power till death. All over Africa, it had become a significant factor of African leaders. And then it is also sad that these leaders will be in power and then it's not favorable in any way to their citizens. Nigeria is experiencing it. And then you see that, I don't know, maybe all AU, African Union leaders are just like that, or it is typical of Africa not to serve, but I'm looking for the right word, to rule or dominate the people. We are not in a military era, but unfortunately, the government of Africa, all the governments of Africa are leaving citizens of Africa no other choice than to keep praying military comes in. In my own opinion, it is not the best. I do not pray for military coup d'etat in any way because we know what it used to be and we do not want to return to that life again. I just hope that African leaders can learn. And regardless of the fact that in Nigeria, they tried to cover up the attempted coup, the alleged attempted coup in Nigeria, they still didn't learn. They still didn't learn. And it's so unfortunate that Nigeria is playing the lead in Africa on how to dehumanize the residents, the citizens of Nigeria and then of Africa as a whole. So it's so unfortunate. Look at how many years the presidents they have been. And then I also observed that it is not only that African leaders want to remain there, it had replicated itself from the presidency to the gubernatorial. In fact, let me not mention presidency and guber. It had replicated itself in the National Assembly and the houses of assembly. In all the states where you have someone dominating his own community for 20, 23 years of democracy. And no other person would want to contend, not because there is no better person, but because the person in place would do everything possible to eliminate the one who is standing right and to do the right thing. I hope Africa will learn, and I hope Africa will wake up to serving its people and not just few political elites.
It's actually a very sad scenario when you look at it in that way. And that's why I had to ask the question, what exactly is it about being in office that makes many African presidents, not want to hand over power? Now, that might seem like a rhetorical question, but especially for countries where they claim to espouse democracy. And Nigeria is one of those countries where we try to take our democracy very, very seriously. Unfortunately, recently, due to the influx of many state governors and many party structures due to defections to the APC, with the most recent being 15 lawmakers from the Rivers State House of Assembly, many Nigerians are harboring fears of a one-party state in the country. Anyway, that is another conversation. But for now, with what happened in Benin Republic today, there were conversations, or there were talks that the French president spoke to Nigeria's president and he deployed aircrafts which actually dropped some explosions. There were explosions heard in certain areas in Benin Republic, in certain parts of the capital. And Nigerians are asking the question, shouldn't Nigeria be standing with a fellow West African country that we share a land border with, rather than taking directives from the French president on what to do in Benin Republic? Because those soldiers who tried to take over the country actually literally said that French should step away and not interfere in whatever is going on in the country. Would you say that the reason for most of these coups is because they see the way that their leaders liaise with the international community, quote and unquote, to rip the people off?
Well, my view of Africa, and according to history and to what we've learned in class when at the university, we have discovered that Africa is at a standpoint not because Africa is poor, but because African leaders have remained puppets to the West. African leaders had remained what they are, and they've remained let me put them as the captain of slaves. They remain the captain, giving feedback to the West and enslaving their own people, and then to keep the country as it is, make it retarded onto the West. Now, saying that the people are not the leaders are not responsible to the people. It's not that the leaders also are clean, but because they also are greedy, they don't want to take care of their citizens. They do not want to even look ahead. And as it is now, even when we had a leader like Muammar Gaddafi in Africa trying to unite and unify Africa, the West stood up against it. So our situation is so sad because we have enemy within and we have enemies without. Our enemies within are the leaders of Africa. They do not want the people of Africa to get emancipated in any way so that they could be taking their royalty from the West, and then the West can be milking the soil of Africa. So we will not have any other way forward. We will not have any other way if at this point we are standing democratically looking for a way to take over from an insensitive and irresponsible government. And the government itself is militating against the people, using all means possible to suppress dissents. With this kind of thing, the society is calling for military coup d'etat. But as we have it now, Nigeria is standing up for Benin, not for any reason, but because a threat on any other African country is sending signal to Africa, to Nigeria as a whole, to be watchful, to watch its back of the impending doom that may come. But we hope and I pray that we do not have such situation of military coup in Nigeria.
But do you think that these happening so close to us actually threatens our democracy, especially so close to the 2027 elections? Would you say that right now the Nigerian government is jittery, or when political analysts, especially opposition politicians, talk about the fact that Nigeria's institutions, from the legislature to the judiciary to the military, have all been captured and are in the pockets of the executive, that's the reason why something like this will never happen in Nigeria? Should Nigerians be jittery with everything that's happening around us, basically?
Nigerian government should be afraid more. And then they are putting every military, every political apparatus in place to defend the territorial integrity of the states, of the Nigerian states. Not because it cannot happen. It can happen. In history, if we see military coup happening, it comes from junior officers most of the time. And then as we have it today, Nigeria is doing everything possible to guide against that. In fact, at our military barracks, they must not see 3 to 4 military boys standing and talking together. They've been so suppressed that if they see you talking together, you will confess what you are discussing. That's what's happening in our own military at this moment. So if our government is jittering over this, it means they are not also settled. They want to defend and to protect what they are hitting. They want to defend and protect their loot of the nation. But as it is, I just hope that instead of jittering, I hope they become more democratic instead of being more, how do I put this form of government? Instead of being more autocratic in nature, let me just put it that way. But instead of jittering, we look forward to a better life. Corrections should be taken. Other African countries that have been toppled we should learn from them, not to let it replicate itself in our home country. We do not want it. And we look forward to a responsible governance in Nigeria.
All right, then. Let's now move on to insecurity, terrorism, and the allegations of a Christian genocide happening in Nigeria. Representative Riley Moore from the United States Congress is currently in the country and interfacing with the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, and others. Nuhu Ribadu actually welcomed the U.S. Congress delegation in Abuja, and they're talking about cooperation to phase out terrorism in the country. The NSA is saying they are building on earlier meetings that that was had in Washington, where both sides discussed shared threats and security priorities. Now they're talking about counter-terrorism, regional stability, and strengthening the partnership. This is what topped the agenda of the meeting, according to the reports that we are getting. Now that the U.S. representative is in Nigeria, would you say that he can actually assess the situation on ground and go back to give a better report on if a Christian genocide is actually happening? Would he finally change his mind and tell the world that nothing like that is happening, like Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo and others have tried to make them know when they testified before the U.S. Congress hearings, the sit-ins, where he talked about how many bodies he has buried due to the issues, due to the terrorism, due to the deaths, due to the attacks that is happening in some northern parts of the country. Especially how we've seen with how these terrorists, go into worship centers. Just last Sunday, they kidnapped a pastor and his wife in Kogi. Throughout the week, there were one or more reports every single day of mayhem happening on Kogi roads, in Kogi communities. It's been really, really bad. What do you expect now that this U.S. Congress representative is actually on ground in Nigeria to assess the situation?
The U.S. representative in Nigeria, this isn't the first time they would come to our country and they leave with whatever information they want to part away with. But at this time, we need to make it clear that of a truth, there's Christian genocide in Nigeria. But do not forget that our government will always give a different narrative to what is happening. And if you observe lately, the terrorists are beginning to kill Muslim faithful. They are beginning to kill them. They are beginning to enter into mosque, display all sort of terrorism in Muslim zones too. So they would paint the scenario to make it look like, yes, there's no Christian genocide. Nigeria can play any game. Nigerian government can play any game with people's life to prove a point. And this is what we have seen ever in every area. I will not say it is limited to Christians alone. We have genocide, even genocide of the poor in Nigeria, because once a military, a political leader enriches himself or herself with money, he or she comes down to the community to bounce on the people. That's the sample.